Halo kaula muda Indonesia, salam sehat selalu. Ada yang baru loh di dunia pendidikan tinggi kita, yaitu Indonesia Cyber Education atau disingkat ICE Institute. ICE Institute merupakan marketplace mata kuliah daring bersertifikat yang bermutu dan terregistrasi secara nasional. ICE Institute juga dilengkapi dengan teknologi blockchain yang mencatat semua penempuhan dan perolehan mata kuliah daring oleh kita yang dapat dihubungkan dengan job market. ICE Institute hadir dengan tagline Merdeka Belajar untuk Semua. Mata kuliah daring yang ditawarkan melalui ICE Institute akan memperluas akses kita semua terhadap pendidikan tinggi daring yang berkualitas, siapa saja, di mana saja, kapan saja, dan dapat mengambil mata kuliah daring melalui ICE Institute. Selain itu, ICE Institute juga mendukung program Kampus Merdeka, Merdeka Belajar dari Menteri Pendidikan, Kebudayaan, Riset, dan Teknologi. Mata kuliah daring yang ditawarkan melalui ICE Institute sifatnya satuan mata kuliah, yaitu kalau kita sudah menyelesaikan dan lulus satu mata kuliah, maka kita berhak mendapatkan sertifikat elektronik yang terverifikasi untuk mata kuliah tersebut. Untuk menyajikan mata kuliah yang berkualitas dan sesuai dengan kebutuhan terkini, ICE Institute berkolaborasi dengan berbagai perguruan tinggi negeri dan swasta ternama di Indonesia, yaitu UI, UPH, UT, UGM, Binus University, UNJ, UAJ, IPB, Pradita University, ITS, UNS, AVB, Undip, dan Telkom University. ICE Institute juga berkolaborasi dengan institusi penyedia mata kuliah daring dari luar negeri seperti EDX. Untuk memperluas jaringan, ICE Institute juga berkolaborasi dengan Rilo US Embassy Jakarta yang menyediakan akses ke berbagai kursus terbuka bahasa Inggris yang dikelola oleh instruktur dari berbagai kampus bereputasi di Amerika Serikat. Pengembangan ICE Institute dimotori oleh Universitas Terbuka dan memperoleh dukungan dari berbagai pihak, yaitu Asian Development Bank atau ADB, Microsoft, dan Caliber. Kedepannya, ICE Institute akan terus memperluas jejaring kerjasama dengan banyak pihak untuk meningkatkan jumlah konten pembelajaran yang berkualitas serta menyediakan layanan pembelajaran daring yang dinamis. ICE Institute juga berupaya memperbaiki sistem yang sudah dimilikinya. Oleh sebab itu, bersama perguruan tinggi mitra, ICE Institute melakukan penelitian dan pengembangan secara intensif. Topik-topiknya menarik dan menginspirasi peningkatan kualitas pembelajaran daring di Indonesia. Penelitian tersebut dibahas melalui webinar series Cyber Education Forum. Setiap bulannya diselenggarakan satu webinar dan ditayangkan secara live melalui Zoom dan UTTV YouTube channel. Jadi ayo kaula muda, kita berpartisipasi. Agar mata kuliah daring yang ditayangkan melalui ICE terjamin kualitasnya, dosen-dosen penyedia mata kuliah daring juga dilatih sehingga terampil dan siap untuk menyajikan materi perkuliahan secara daring. Kaula muda Indonesia, yang paling menarik adalah beasiswa Mendikbudristek Merdeka Belajar untuk Semua. Semua mahasiswa di perguruan tinggi di Indonesia bisa shopping berbagai mata kuliah melalui ICE Institute dari perguruan tinggi ternama di Indonesia dan juga luar negeri. Ada 158 mata kuliah daring dari 12 perguruan tinggi papan atas di Indonesia dan 1.381 mata kuliah dari EDX yang berasal dari perguruan tinggi terkemuka internasional. Semua dibagikan secara gratis. ICE Institute akan terus berusaha untuk selalu melayani Indonesia secara prima melalui pengalaman belajar yang menarik dan menyenangkan. Belajar daring berkualitas melalui ICE Institute, tanpa batas, tanpa sekat, merdeka belajar untuk semua, Indonesia maju, salam sehat selalu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the 16th Cyber Education Forum with the topic of personalized recommendation system for online learning, which is hosted by the ICE Institute. A very good morning to everyone. As I see here, we have 115 participants in this Zoom meeting, and we hope that all of us is in a very good health. Especially, we would like to greet our speakers who is already here. Peter van Leusen, Ph.D., Director of Digital Learning Initiatives, Fulton School of Engineering. Thank you very much that you have attended here. And in my phone here, it's noticed that it's 7 p.m. already in Arizona. And then also thank you very much to Jaringan, CEO of Jobkred in Singapore. Good morning, Jaringan. And then to Associate Professor Dr. Dina Fitria Murad from Binus Online Learning, or BOL, Binus University. Welcome and thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Dina Fitria Murad, to be able to attend and speak as speakers in this forum. And to all participants and honorable speakers, the Cyber Education Forum is held by ICE Institute, which is abbreviated from the Indonesia Cyber Education Institute. And the institute itself is a digital marketplace for quality online courses in Indonesia, with the main objective to facilitate the provision of quality education while ensuring the quality of online learning and distant education services. The ICE Institute itself is headquartered in Universitas Terbuka in South Tangerang City, Indonesia. So before we start our event, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Fawzi, and I'm a lecturer from Biology Study Program, Faculty of Science and Technology, and I will serve as an MC or moderator for today's forum. So now we will enter the first session. We will hear the opening remarks of today's forum from Professor Paulina Pannen, the head of ICE Institute. To Professor Paulina Pannen, you may start the opening remarks.
Thank you, Fawzi, our moderator this morning. A very good morning to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our speaker, distinguished speaker, Mr. Peter van Leusen, from Director of Digital Learning Initiative, Fulton School of Engineering, Arizona State University. Thank you for participating in this forum. It is very honor for us to have you in this forum, and perhaps later you can share about the work that you have done and also the state of the art of online learning in your case. And Mr. Jaringan, from the CEO at Jobkred, is an old friend, I believe. He is not a new one for me. We have been working together last year, I believe, ICE Institute with Jobkred, and hopefully we can continue our collaboration. But for this morning session, thank you for your agreement and support to participate in this forum. I believe Jobkred can also explain something about personalized recommendation system, which is very important to the online learning mode in everywhere in Indonesia as well as in the world. And Ibu Professor, Associate Professor Dr. Dina Fitria Murad, our colleague, research collaborator from Binus Online Learning, Binus University. Thank you for being here and participate in this forum. And thank you for your willingness to share about your research in this forum. I believe our audience will receive a great deal from you, the information and also the strategy on how we can move forward in online learning through personalized recommendation system. Ladies and gentlemen, personalized recommendation system is actually a very what we call high-touch tool for online learning, where you can touch actually the feeling of the user. Once I was also a kind of what you call the beginner of online thing, online learning, online market, online e-commerce, etc. And then suddenly, at that time, I was in Facebook, for example. Suddenly, when I went to Bandung, and then in my Facebook, they provide me with a lot of quote unquote, I will call it at that time, advertisement about the hotel that I need, that I can choose in Bandung area, and then about the supermarket that I can go through, about what you call fashion store that I can also take a look. Those are recommendations that I think, wow, Facebook has knowledge about me being in Bandung, and suddenly they provide me with a lot of recommendations, quote unquote advertisement, which is very useful at that time for me because I'm new in Bandung, and then I need to go to buy clothing. I want to buy also something else. It's easy for me because of that recommendation. And then when I also experienced the online learning at that time, I was taking Coursera and EDX. They provide me with that kind of quote unquote, my term was that advertisement through my email. Okay. And then every time, almost weekly, I got an email from Coursera saying that, okay, if you are taking this course, then you may be interested in taking some other courses. Of course, the courses are very much of interest to me, and then I can just choose which one I like. But when I click, they will also provide other courses, which is perhaps not related to my wanting or my needs, but still I can browse. Yeah, I can browse so that perhaps I can that can also attract my interest. So that is very, very touching for me that moment, because I said, wow, they can understand me. They touch me. They greet me personally, Paulina, not anybody else. Okay, so that experience provides a very important what they call learning curve for me, that even in the online situation, you can just still do human touch. Okay, that is through the personalized recommendation. Actually, later on, I found out it was really an artificial intelligence. It was really a machine doing that for me. But still, the joyful experience being paid attention by Coursera, a big company in the world, for example, by the city of Bandung or Facebook to take care of my being in Bandung, for example, that was really lovely, and it touched my heart, it touched my feeling, so that I was just returning a lot and a lot and a lot again and again and again. So that's how actually personalized recommendation system is in online learning. We are, as educators, usually what we did is just put all the materials there, that's it, and expecting all the students will do the learning by themselves. But we forgot that there is something else that is touching the heart, touching the feeling of the students, so that they can have a joyful experience while doing the courses, which may be hardcore or very hard subjects, but they still can feel that there is someone accompanying them in their journey of learning. There is someone who can give attention to them while they are doing their work in online learning. So that's about a personalized recommendation, and that's why I think what Professor Ibu Dina Murad is going to introduce to all of you and to all of us is very important. and I believe Mr. Peter van Leusen and also Mr. Jaringan will approve my statement and also explain a lot more about the personalized recommendation system for online learning. Ladies and gentlemen, have a very fruitful forum and discussion this morning. I hope you enjoy our speakers today for this Cyber Education Forum, which is already on the 16th of our series. And I believe this one is very, very important to all of us who are doing things with online learning. Thank you very much, and have a very good morning, good session with all of you. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Paulina Pannen, the head of ICE Institute, for the opening remarks, which give some perspectives and background for today's topic, which is about the personalized recommendation system for online learning. And for the next, we will see the video from the ICE Institute, which will be played by our IT team. Maybe we can start the video now.
Belajar. A policy Minister of Education, Research and 2020 has paved the way for college students to have the opportunity to take 20 credits outside their major. It aims to encourage college students to master various subjects that matter once they enter the professional world. It will also help them to equip their passion and creativity with a strong academic basis. To facilitate the provision of Indonesia's quality of education while ensuring improvements in online learning services, ICE Institute is here to become the best online learning marketplace, offering a wide variety of subjects and courses from leading universities in Indonesia and more from international academic institutions. Together with the consortium members and a growing partner list, ICE Institute now houses more than 300 subjects and counting, including subjects and courses on the LMX Open EDX platform from leading international universities. This allows ICE Institute website to record an immense number of registered students across Indonesia in the past year. ICE Institute has ambitious goals to help fulfill the needs of lifelong learners through the provision of quality learning systems and content that can be accessed by anyone, anytime, and anywhere. ICE Institute also collaborates with domestic and foreign partners to hold Cyber Education Forum to discuss various topics based on research and studies around hot skills in the job market and how students can prepare to enter the competition ahead of them. One of the programs that ICE continues to develop is Micro-Credential Game Developer Program with 5 streams of specialization: Game Artist, Game Programmer, Game Designer, Educational Game Developer, Game Project Manager. After graduating, students enrolled in Micro-Credential Game Developer Program will take part in Capstone Project for Game Making. The 10 best games will be selected by experts from the gaming industry during the judging process. Not only quality programs, AR or VR has also been used in various lecture processes to provide a modern and futuristic learning experience. ICE Institute will continue to carry out various research and development of the facilities, services, and features provided, thus becoming an answer to embrace the borderless and unlimited era of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, which has changed the perspective on how formal education.
Thank you very much. And now, please let me read some webinar rules for today. So the first one is that there is no attendance form during this webinar, but there will be a feedback link that will be given in the end of this webinar. And rule number 2, the webinar will last for 120 minutes or 2 hours approximately, which is divided into 2 segments. Speaker presentations and a question and answer session or Q&A. And questions can be submitted through Q&A feature, and it's not allowed to provide any offensive information in the message or provocation, and selected questions will be submitted by the moderator or by the committee to the speakers for response. So yeah, that is the slide rules for today's webinar. And before we enter our first session from Peter van Leusen, I would like to invite all of the participants to turn on the web camera so that we can document this event, the start of this event. So yeah, to all the participants, we will wait for all of us to turn on the webcam so that our IT team can document our attendance. Perhaps IT team now, we're ready or not? Okay, let me check in the gallery. Okay, everyone seems to already turn on the webcam. Okay, I guess we can start now the documentation. So on mark 1.
Rahman.
Yes.
Rahmat Adi, Ahmad Bakri, Basuki, Anna Junior, they're not.
Yeah, we feel on the to all participants.
Is putus-putus, Pak Fawzi.
Okay. On my mark, 1.
Okay, Pak Fawzi, you give instruction to all of us.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Perhaps we can give a.
We cannot hear you.
In the camera.
We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you.
Check.
Yes.
Now is it okay? Okay. Now, thankfully now it works. Okay. We are sorry for the technical difficulties. Yeah. So yeah. Almost all of us already turned on the webcam, so I think the IT team now can document ourselves. To the IT team, we may start. 1, 2, 3. Please provide a good smile to the webcam. Then 1, 2, 3. Perhaps the second slide, and then the third slide. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we can enter to our first speakers. Peter van Leusen, Director of Digital Learning Initiatives from Fulton School of Engineering, Arizona State University. Thank you very much, Professor Peter, for providing the time and giving as a speaker for today's forum. Even though I see in my clock is that it's already almost 8 p.m. in Arizona. And before Professor Peter gives the presentation, please allow me to read the CV of Professor Peter van Leusen. So Peter van Leusen is the Director of Digital Learning Initiatives in the Fulton School of Engineering at Arizona State University. And in this role, he collaborates closely with the department and faculty on student success initiatives across diverse modalities and disciplines. His recent projects focused on collaborating on adaptive curriculum, on courseware development, designing MOOCs in a foreign language, integrating learning, promoting inclusive design and teaching practices, and spearheading innovative digital education experiences for a broad audience. Before joining Arizona State University, Peter worked as the Assistant Director in the Office of Instructional Consulting in the School of Education at Indiana University, and previously taught middle and high school in German. Peter holds a Ph.D. in Instructional Systems Technology from Indiana University, Bloomington, and his research interests include faculty development, instructional technology, instructional design, and innovative teaching and learning in face-to-face, hybrid, and online formats. So as a hobby, when he's not designing creative and innovative solutions, you can find Peter playing soccer or running. So yeah, that is for the brief CV from Peter van Leusen, Director of Digital Learning Initiatives, Fulton School of Engineering from Arizona State University. To Peter, you may start the presentations now.
All right, thank you very much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
can
it's
hear me?
very clear.
Oh,
yes,
excellent, excellent. Yeah, it's always amazing how technology sometimes works and we can talk around the world. Yes, it is almost 7:30 p.m. here in Arizona, but it's great to be here. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit what we are doing at Arizona State University. Thank you, Professor Pannen, for the introduction, as well as inviting me to share some of the work that ASU has been doing for, close to 7 years here at Arizona. I want to highlight that we definitely are aware that adaptive technology or personalized technology on its own is not the perfect solution for all of us. So as you mentioned in your introduction, that we need a little bit more than just tools, and so we are spending a lot of time not just using adaptive technologies, but also implementing what we call student-centered learning or active learning. So I'm going to be sharing more about our adaptive active framework that we have been using for the past 7 years, in particular in our introductory courses. Annually, we have close to over 30,000 students going through these experiences, and it has been successful, considering if you think about student performance, student retention, as well as instructor satisfaction and so on. Before I get started, maybe now that you know me a little bit, maybe I get to know you a little bit. So maybe if you could, let's use maybe the Zoom raise hand feature. So in your reactions button, if you could say, who here has been using adaptive or personalized learning systems already? Maybe if you could raise your hand, that would be helpful to help me understand how many people have been using this already. All right. Who here has thought about using adaptive systems or has maybe piloted adaptive systems before and plans to expand on this moving forward? Maybe raise your hand and so on. All right, so that's good to see that some people are doing that already. And the final thing is, okay, who has heard about adaptive systems, but never really had the time to explore them so far? And maybe raise their hands, all right. Okay. All right, excellent. So this is very helpful and gives me a little bit more background on who I'm talking to and can adjust my talk to. So let me share my screen and some slides on this. All right. Everybody can see the slides. Give me a little hands up there, the thumbs up. Are we good? Okay, great, excellent. So really our adaptive active initiative really focuses on student success. And I'm going to share a little bit what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce not just myself, but also the university a little bit, so you guys know what the context is that we're working on. We are mostly a credit-bearing environment that is with facilitated instruction. So it's not self-paced, where adaptive technology is often used, but we're really utilizing adaptive technology in our facilitated instruction model. I'm going to share some of the outcomes. I'm going to share how we designed and implement our adaptive model. In particular, I'm going to use biology as well as economics as our example, but we have been using it in other disciplines as well. Then I'm going to share briefly what we've been working on the past year. We have actually created an adaptive program as well, which is called BioSpine. It's in biology. It's our undergraduate Bachelor of Biological Sciences, where we actually created a whole program that is adaptive. And then, based on my understanding, we have some time here at the end to answer questions, and I would be happy to do that for you. So for those people who might not be familiar where we are located, Arizona State University is located in the southwest of the United States in the beautiful state of Arizona. It is, close to California as well as Mexico. This is how Phoenix looks like. We have a very arid climate. You can see we have some mountains. We do have some green, but most of the landscape here is very brown, and it gets very, very hot in the summer here. So we have up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 45 degrees Celsius, and so on a regular basis and higher. But very dry humidity, which is nice. And of course, most people know us about this thing that we have, which is the Grand Canyon. And if you have not visited the Grand Canyon, it's only a couple hours away from Phoenix. I highly, highly recommend this. It is breathtaking, and it's a great place to hike, but also just to observe there. So if you never had the chance, if you're not interested in personalized systems, this is probably the main takeaway. Go and visit the Grand Canyon today. Soon if you can. So particularly now with the borders opening again and travel becoming easier. So, all right, let me give you a little bit background about ASU, or Arizona State University. So we are a public university, and what's really, really important to understand is this, which is our charter. And this charter is pretty much fundamental to all the things that we are doing here at ASU. It's really our mission statement. But compared to other universities where I worked, where maybe people knew or did not know about the mission statement, everybody at ASU can actually recite this. And in particular, I highlighted the key phrase that ASU is a comprehensive public university, but we measure ourselves by who we include and how people are successful. And that's very, very important to understand. So a lot of times universities try to exclude people because they have admission tests, there are high tuition costs, at least in the US, and there are other barriers that do not allow people to get into the university and be successful. ASU is very different in this way. We do have a very high admission rate, and we want people to stay within the programs, within the education system, because in general, education is a way to a better life, to a better income and a better career and a better satisfaction, as well as participants in the democratic and the process as well. So education is key for us, and that's very important. If Arizona itself, the high school system is not highly ranked. It's 48th in the nation out of 50. So we do have a lot of work to do here, and adaptive systems are one of the strategy that helps us with that. For those people who like numbers, you just hear a little fact sheet to give you a little bit impression of who we are and what numbers we are dealing with. So our projected enrollment for this fall is a record enrollment, 140,000 students across modalities. So that means on ground as well as online. And for the first time in ASU's history, we have more online students, purely online students, than on-ground students. So that's very interesting. And I know that during the introduction, there was also a request to share a little bit more about our online programs. So we do have over 300 fully online programs. These are generally students who don't set a foot on our campus. They are located all across the United States as well as internationally. We do have a lot of military students. We do have a lot of first generation students. So these are students that have come from families that do not have a higher education background and so on as well. So this is quite large. So, and this is something that really is something we need to consider when we design our experiences. So we often have high enrollment courses as well as students with different backgrounds and needs. And that's where our personalized systems can help us out. So with that in mind, so I do teach as well. I teach online, I teach in person, I teach small classes, I teach large classes. And now for those people here who are teaching, I'm going to show you a picture that you might be familiar with. So something like this. And this is a stock picture. This is not from ASU. We are not sponsored by Apple, because everybody has an Apple computer here. But in general, this is how a lot of our classes look like in person, right? And if you're an instructor, this is often the situation you face. You look at your students. They might be looking at something else, but they have a computer. They might be watching videos. They might be on Facebook. They might be on TikTok, but they might be reading something that is important to your class and so on. But the key questions that I have as an instructor, and that probably you have as well when you look at these faces, is actually these 3 questions, like who needs help? You know, because as an educator, I really want to make sure that my students are learning, and I want to make sure that the students who are struggling are learning as well. Then I want to understand who needs, what do they need help with, right? Because sometimes I teach very complex topics, but what is it exactly that they're struggling with? And then what is the best way to help them? So, and that's really where the personalized systems, the adaptive systems come in. And by the way, this is the same thing online. This has not changed during the pandemic. You know, this is our Zoom-based classroom, and you know, you get the same questions. You still look at a group of faces that you have just on a screen in this case. All right, so with this in mind, our goal, as we said in the charter, is to enable student success. And we like to put that into measurable terms. And in what that means for us, we want to achieve 90% retention, in particular into the introductory courses that are what we call gateway courses. So how do we get to 90% retention? So we reviewed the literature, we surveyed instructors, we talked to student success specialists, and basically we came up, okay, it comes down to these 4 things. So we want to improve critical thinking and problem solving. We want to increase students' subject mastery, of course. They want to have to learn the subject and the content. We want to increase students' 4 years graduation rate. So in the US, the bachelor degree is generally 4 years, but sometimes we see that students take longer. And we want to improve instructor insights. Remember that question that I showed in the beginning: who is struggling, what are they struggling with, and how can I help them? So we want to help our instructors to identify these students earlier, so it's not too late when it comes to some of these high stakes exams. So how do we do this? Well, to get to the retention level, to critical thinking, we got to do active learning in class, and I'm going to talk about this as well. So that's actually in the physical classroom. That's how we started out. We did active learning and shifted from lecture-based instructions to student-centered instruction. How do we increase subject mastery? Well, we want our students to do better on the exams. So we want to get a C or better for 90% of students. We want to increase our graduation rate over 4 years. So we want to reduce withdrawal rate to under 4%, 5% in general. And we want to identify struggling students by week 2. And we have different lengths of semesters. We have a 7.5 model, and we have a 15-week model. But pretty much what we want to do, we want to know who's struggling as soon as possible, so we can intervene and maybe help the students be successful. All right, with these goals in mind, so how did we do? All right, so this is, I'm going to share 2 examples here. So this is from our introductory biology course, which has about 850 non-majors, but this is taught by the same instructor, same curriculum, and similar assessment. And so the gray is the performance, so the grades. We want them to be as high as possible. And the yellow is the withdrawal rate. We want that to be as low as possible. And so what you can see, like when we get started, we notice that, okay, lecture-based instruction, our withdrawal rate was pretty high. Our performance rate was not that great. Same thing in the fall. Then our first initiative was, okay, let's just do active learning. Don't use adaptive systems. And you can see that we were significantly struggling there. So, and that's actually something we observe quite often, because it's a different shift of teaching. It's a different paradigm of teaching, where students are much more involved, and it takes a little coaching on the instructor side as well on the student side to do that right. So we actually were not doing that well. However, then we implemented adaptive system plus the active learning in the classroom, and we've seen significant improvement across the board. And I could continue with that until today. We have just seen an increase in enrollment, but the percentages are pretty stable for that. So this is something that is pretty much our showcase and we started with on-ground education first before we got online. This is something from microeconomics, so 2,000 students per year. We worked with a product called Cengage Learning Objects there, same instructor, curriculum, and similar assessment. And this is just how we compared exams over 2 semesters here in the fall. So, and what you can see is the new model, which is in red, had significant improvement in the grade performance as well. So what we're doing, we're not just looking at the whole course as we evaluate our initiatives, but we also look at individual assessments as well. And we've seen a consistent improvement across the board. If you're interested in more data, I'd be happy to share that as well. So, okay. So how do we design? How do we do adaptive active learning? And that's probably interesting to those who are more who are in the classroom or designers and so on. And what we are doing is pretty much, we really looked at, okay, what are some of the tasks? What are some of the concepts and skills that need to be learned? So we did a quite extensive review of the curriculum. And what we determined was, okay, there's some things that students can do individually. And these tend to be what we call in the Bloom's taxonomy, lower learning task. And these can be done good with the adaptive systems. So this is like memorizing facts, recognizing concepts, and so on. But as soon as you go up on higher order thinking skills like application, the analyzing, and so on, this is in generally better practice or taught using active learning. And that can be done during the class time or within the LMS if you're teaching online. So for those people who know the flipped classroom approach, so this is pretty much what this is. So we're using students to work before the class with the personalized system. When they come into class or into Canvas, which is our learning management system, that's where they do the application and the assessment as well. So what that looks like in this little cycle that we have, okay, individually students acquire information, they read the e-text, they watch videos, they do some simulations, they do a lot of practice assessments or formative assessments before they come to class or before they go further into the learning management system. Then they participate, come to class, they're ready, right? And then based on this, what they've learned, they're doing more higher order applications. So that could be a case study, that could be a debate, that could be a project, and so on, that they often do collaboratively with their classmates. And in addition, we still do our high stake exams in the classroom as well, or in Canvas, so not in the adaptive system as well. So this is how we designed this, and that's how we are working with our instructors. So what that looks like, and I know our moderator is a biology professor here, so you're probably very familiar with some of these concepts here because these are coming straight from an introductory biology course. So the way a course could look like is that we start with one lesson on the scientific methods. We go then have a lab session. We have biodiversity, another lab session, body systems, and then go within the exam. And so this has been quite successful. We're creating these modular experiences that build upon each other. And that's what's, so we are using modular design, which is kind of interesting because that was very helpful to us because when we started first, one of our biology instructors thought we should teach macro concept to micro concept. And then we worked with another instructor and he said, no, don't do that. We want to teach micro to macro concepts. And for those people who design classes, you know, that is quite complex if you have to shift the curriculum. But having these modular experiences actually makes it quite easier. You can shift things around, and that's why adaptive system helps as well. And so I've been very successful with that model as well. And yeah, still some design needed, but it's easier and more efficient. So for those people who like to design, think about modular design practices. All right. What's the purpose of adaptive courseware or adaptive personalized system? Really, the goal is to provide the right lesson to the right student at the right time. And keep in mind that students have different backgrounds, knowledge, and skills coming into the courses. They might have a different high school experience, might have had a different previous course, or they might be transferring in, or they might not have a previous course. So they really have a diversity of knowledge. And that's where our system can help analyze this and help out with that. And we have partnered with many different vendors on many different areas. Some of these vendors actually don't exist anymore. So that has always been a struggle when somebody got bought, like Smart Sparrow was bought by Pearson, for example. Newton was bought by Cengage, Cockbooks was recently bought by Cambridge University Press. So this has actually been quite interesting because what do you do when something gets bought? Here you can see some of our subject areas that we worked in. So mostly introductory level courses, high enrollment, where we had like the biggest impact on our students. So psychology, economics, math, of course, chemistry, physics, and biology as well. So key question is, all right, so what is really adapting to the learner? And there are two things. That is adapting to the learner based on individual behavior, assessments, and so on. So one is the lesson sequence. So some people can be faster, some people can be slower, some people get more optional material, some people get more supplemental material. And then also content selection. So on the more sophisticated systems, students have the options to select what they're interested in. And that could be maybe in the context of, say, I'm going to explain that in a little bit later, but say you can learn about physics, about forces, and when you throw a ball, you can calculate it. So it might be, hey, are you interested in soccer? Are you interested in basketball? Are you interested in golf? And then in that context, what the student selected, the physics concepts are introduced and so on. What are four? So here's very interesting. So what is guiding adaptivity? So, and that's really where you got to take a good look at what different vendors can provide. And that's also where we differentiate a little bit from the consumer industry, like Facebook or Netflix and so on. Because learning is quite challenging and holding people accountable as well. And pretty much after reviewing different systems, we found that there are like 4 different types of levels of adaptivity. The most common one, and pretty much every learning management system has this right now, is based on assessment. So everybody goes through the same material. Then you have a set of questions or one question or exam. And based on how you do, you get the next material. Say you pass the exam, you move on to the next level. If you do not pass the exam, you get more remedial material and come back later. Very simple. Many systems do that. By association is something that is pre-programmed, and that's where we hit a little bit on what Netflix and Coursera is doing, right? So Dr. Pannen previously shared that she had taken a course in Coursera, and then they recommended something. Hey, are you interested in this? Are you interested in this? And that's based on established relationships that are pre-programmed into the system, right? So there might be keywords and say, hey, there's a learner who is interested in computer science. Hey, let's recommend maybe something on C++, on Java, Python, and so on to that person, because the likelihood is that this person would be very much interested in that as well. So you can create networks within the learning software or courseware. Another option, which is actually becoming more popular, is student agency or agency, where students can choose. right? So, hey, what are you interested in learning? And the way I think about it, it's similar to, you know, when I was growing up, we had physical textbook, and I sometimes flipped through the textbook and I saw, oh, that's an interesting picture. Let's take a look and spend some time on this. So it's really, you flip through this and say, oh, this is an interesting topic, and I spend some time on it, and we give credit to this. And then the very, very high level one that is, I would say you have to be cautious. Everybody tells you that there's a secret algorithm there, but very few people or very few companies actually have that available. So I would say that is still in development, because what this really is, they're looking at the learning analytics or the learner analytics of student behavior, and they analyze it and see, okay, how is that person doing? And then they compare it to people who previously went through the system. So for example, myself, let's assume I'm struggling in the beginning. The system can compare it. What were students doing that previously struggled but were successful? Okay, let's recognize it and recommend this to Peter, right? So somebody who's more successful might get different recommendations as well. For self-paced learning, this is a little bit more advanced compared to maybe some of the credit-bearing stuff that we have. What does that look like? So this
excuse me, Peter. I think we might have only 3 minutes left for the presentation. So we just want to remind about this. Yeah.
Thank you. That's perfect. That's actually currently, that goes directly with what we have. So this is what I directly have planned. So, and then we can have some questions. So what that is on the back end is really, okay, for students, it looks something like this, where we have here our agency, where they make choices, where they do have the algorithm, and then we do recommend it by association, or we do by association as well. With that in mind, what happens in the classroom is we focus on active learning, where we are constructing knowledge as well as focus on the higher order thinking skills. And that's where we work with our professors to really do this group-based instruction and so on. This is a great graphic on how we are, some of the activities that we are designing in there. You start like, and this is a nice spectrum that we have here from simple to complex. You know, it starts with some metacognition, like writing like 1-minute papers and doing some self-assessment, to much more advanced designs like experiential learning or role play and these kind of things. So this is in general how we design our adaptive active initiative. And what we've been working on the last couple of years is our adaptive program. And don't worry, I'm not going to go too much in detail. I'm just going to give you a highlight here. So what this really is how do we integrate the curriculum or the courses? We call it the Biospine initiative. And we are working with our core knowledge and skills that is on the adaptive platform that is integrated. So think about it, if you're taking here Bio 320, and then you come across a concept that has previously been covered, but maybe the system recognized that you need a refresher, the system automatically can give you maybe some information from evolution or so on that can supplement that kind of material as well. So, and then of course, evidence-based teaching, active learning in the classroom or online as well to supplement this as well. This is a massive undertaking. Version 1 is on its way and it's working. However, we also have to do redesign of courses and so on. And we have currently close to 3,000 students in this program, which is purely online. And with that, I'm going to stop my presentation and just going to open up for questions. And I hope I'm at the time. So because I do have some German in me, and my German heritage always wants me to be on time. So
thank you very much, Peter van Leusen. And perhaps we can give a online round of appreciation we can click this in the menu in the Zoom. Thank you very much for the very insightful presentation about this adaptive and active learning system in Arizona State University. So we now may start this Q&A session, perhaps from the IT team, if there is any slide or PowerPoint presentation that you might want to present for the question. Okay, There is, as I can see here, there is one participant also raised hand, but yeah, I will read this these questions first. To Peter, as you have experience, how effective is adaptive learning and what are the outcomes?
Yeah, I briefly showed some of our successes that we had in biology on the course level, as well as in economics. So we do have very similar outcomes in mathematics. The way we generally assess success here in the US is we look at student performance as well as retention. So in math, we have seen over 10%, like double-digit increase in student performance, as well as a decline in retention as well. Something to keep in mind, it's not just the system, the personalized system that we are evaluating. We have a holistic approach to this instructional paradigm. As I said, active learning is something that we do. We do curriculum mapping across the courses as well. And we have actually faculty engaged. So we do a lot of onboarding. We do have faculty talk about how they teach, what they're struggling with. And that is also success, how you can measure success, because while it's not tangible by the numbers, it's definitely something you can will improve the student experience as well. So I hope this answered your questions. If you're interested in specific numbers, I'd be happy to share some data that we have, as well as comparative between non-adaptive and adaptive with the organizers after this call. So that can be shared then with the follow-up email.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And perhaps because I'm a bit have a background in biology, perhaps I may ask about questions related to biology, because there is this BioSpine initiative that perhaps this university plan to launch. So what my question is about, because in the slide you mentioned that there will be evidence-based methods of teaching. So does it mean there will be quite a bit of lab work? Because in biology, usually, I mean, perhaps myself as well, is that we can learn more when we do it by ourselves in the lab, and preparing some perhaps in the cell biology work, we learn how to culture the cell, and then we maintain how the cell can live in this isolated environment in the tissue culture flask, etc. So yeah, perhaps you can elaborate more on this BioSpine initiative.
Yes, and as you saw in my outline, that labs is certainly part of the instructional experience, and that's very, very important. So thank you for asking as well. So yes, we do have, so pretty much what we transformed is our lecture-based sessions, right? So, and then we still have labs running for the in-person experience. For the online experience, we are actually using different types of experiences to do the labs. So there are different strategies. Sometimes, depending on the content, we send biology kits to our students, so they have to do dissections and so on, and they have to film themselves and document this. So that's very entertaining, and we hear some interesting stories when people store their specimen in the freezer or fridge. That's always some interesting family stories we hear about, or the kids are very excited about that when the parents do this. We also do simulations online. So we partnered with a company called Labster. It comes out of Denmark, that does some virtual reality as well as some 2D simulations. And something that we are working on as well, we have partnered on virtual reality with the company called Dreamscape. So these guys come from Hollywood, actually. So they're doing immersive virtual reality, and so we engaging our students with storytelling in the labs, and then they do the data manipulation and hypothesis testing and all that fun stuff outside of the virtual reality experience. But they're collecting the data in the virtual reality, but it's connected to the story. So it's very much about engagement there. So we have been piloting that, and that's been, if you want to Google Dreamscape Learn in Arizona, that's some cool stuff, some videos that you can see how we do this.
Yes, thank you, Peter. And maybe one bit follow-up question. Just one last question for me. Me as a lecturer in a biology study program has a bit of challenge because we have the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic situation, and we have to transform a bit of our lab work to online lab work. So is there any, maybe you can share some research or study in your university, whether this online lab works really working as like this wet lab work? Because yeah, it can be quite different if the student can work on the microscope by themselves in the real lab versus by online.
Yes, I can include that in my follow-up email, and happy to share that with you as well. So, but definitely something that we are doing it, and the outcomes based on our professors say is impressive, and
okay,
students are engaged as well. So
okay,
I'm sorry I don't have them right on my head here, so but I will definitely share them with you. So
it's okay. Thank you very much, Peter. Perhaps the IT team, if there is one last question from the PPT, or there is no question left? Okay, yeah.
There are a couple in the chat. So
okay, yeah. Sorry.
So
okay. Okay, perhaps I can read from Bapak Muhammad Toha. He's our senior lecturer in Universitas Terbuka. So, question on guiding the adaptivity. You mentioned about algorithm recommendation. Could you give us an illustration about the recommendation itself, and what kind of recommendation? Is that including recommendations such as using the learning path of successful student as a model or reference? That is from Bapak Muhammad Toha from ICE Institute.
Yeah, great question. So, and I think one of my follow-ups, because I assume we'll talk about this a little bit more as well, but really what it is, it looks at the data that we have in students going through the what we call personalized system, right? So if you have thousands and thousands of students have gone through there, you can identify learning pathways of, okay, what are successful students, what are not successful students, what are, so you can create these profiles. And then when you go into the system and you participate, so they can analyze, hey, Peter is struggling, he's not on track. So that's when the predictive analytics comes in, because you can see how many students actually are successful. And then you can say, the system can recommend, okay, what are some learning experiences that have been used with successful students before. So let's assume math, a concrete example with math. Say you're struggling on solving a certain problem. So after a while, the system will recognize, hey, this person is not making progress, it's really stuck. Let's go back and start with something else as well. So in addition, of course, the data, you can see who's struggling, and you might want to do some, as we learned, that's the system alone is not the solution. You need other things as well. So an instructor might reach out to the student. You might have a tutor reaching out to the student. You might have some kind of messaging system involved as well. So I hope that answered the question. So.
Okay, thank you, Peter and Bapak Muhammad Toha. So for the next question from Ibu Nur Wijayaning in the chat box. So from Ibu Nur, she said, I conclude that adaptive system is being used for low level of Bloom taxonomy and active learning is for upper level. So the question from Ibu Nur is that, do the program allow active learning for individual, not team project? And the second question, do your learning management system such as Pearson, etc., could be replaced or have an alternative by popular systems such as Moodle?
Okay, two good questions. So active learning can be done individually as well as collaboratively. So the answer is yes, it can be done individually, but also think about some of the skills that you are practicing, all right? So there are teamwork. So if you go to our employees and you ask the employers, what kind of skills do you want in graduates? You always hear critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and probably problem solving, which is critical thinking, and so on. And that's something you can really practice with active learning as well. So, and that's where the team-based projects come in. So, and so on. But by itself, so active learning can also be done individually. So, because it's really about learning and reflecting where you are as a learner. Second, do your learning management systems can they replace by popular systems as Moodle? So Moodle is a learning management system to me. So, so we always integrate the adaptive platform into our learning management system. That could be Moodle, because other communication resources, additional videos, grades, assessments are happening in that learning management system, which Moodle can handle as well.
So thank you, Peter. And then I think we have one last question in the chat here from Bapak Mujiono. So, dear Peter, what is the barrier or most difficult thing, perhaps, or aspects to solve in implementing the active and adaptive learning?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really depends on your context, so technology is still evolving, but it's getting there. So I think the biggest problem is really, or challenge, it's not a problem, challenge is really mapping the curriculum in such a granular way that it can be recommended and so on. And really you have to think about how granular do you want to be. So if you look at some of the word choices that I used lesson as the unit of granularity, so because it's thematic, it has assessments, has instructional methods and so on. So that's what we decided would be the granular module that we're using. There are people and there are ways you can go much, much more granular. If you're looking to learning objectives and you want to link them, and you can go like each graphic, each video has multiple learning objectives, each a question. So you can really map this out, and that takes a lot of time and effort and expertise. And I would say that's probably the biggest barrier at this time. So from my perspective. So.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And I think that concludes our session with Peter van Leusen. And perhaps before we close our session, maybe from Peter, you have some short closing statement that you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. If you are considering adaptive, active learning, I think it's a great way to start. Please really look at the context and where your students are, what their needs are, but also what your instructors' needs are. I would recommend a step-by-step approach. Don't do it all at once. Start slowly and do an iterative design, because there's a lot of paradigm shift that is happening, not just the tool, but also the flipped classroom pedagogy, the active learning pedagogy, the data analytics. As an instructor, you have to look at data and see where your students are and so on. So there's a lot of things happening that are quite transformative to the learning experience as well as the teaching experience. So do it step by step, don't do it all at once, and you will see the results. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. And once again, thank you for delivering the lecture in this Cyber Education Forum. And then we will have Professor Paulina Pannen to give a form of appreciation to our speaker, Peter van Leusen from Arizona State University. Perhaps Professor Paulina Pannen can be present live in our forum now.
Sorry, Mas Fawzi,
yeah.
I will need to separate ordering for Peter.
Yeah.
Dear Peter, I'm
Suara nggak? Sorry, we have some bit difficulties in the microphone. But maybe we can start again.
Siapa bisa yang ini ada ini? Yang ada ini?
I'm sorry, Peter. Maybe we still solving this.
Dear Peter, finally we meet at today's event. So exciting to be able to communicate with great people like you. Thank you for your time your sharing that has been provided for us. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to give you a certificate of appreciation for your great contribution to this webinar. Please accept it with our sincere gratitude. And please accept it. Okay, let's give a virtual round of applause for our speaker today. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And please, it's great that you guys are doing this. And thank you for being here. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Peter. And you may moving on to your next agenda and perhaps get some rest because it's already night in the Arizona. So yeah, thank you again, Peter.
I'm going to get some dinner. All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the first session. We can now enter our next session with Gary Gan, the CEO and co-founder at Jobkred, Singapore. And Gary Gan is already here. So before Gary Gan give the lecture, please allow me to read the brief CV of Gary Gan. So yeah, Gary Gan is the CEO of Jobkred from January 2015 to present, which approximately around 7.5 years. And then Gary is an experienced entrepreneur and marketer involved in the startup of several successful companies across a broad spectrum of industries. Gary was previously head of marketing and business development at Trade Hero, a stock trading mobile app that raised to $10 million from Kleiner Perkins and was acquired by Iondo. He is currently co-founder of Jobkred, a workforce transformation platform that uses AI and data science to understand the evolving industry skills demand and guides people to close their skills gap and navigate the future work. Jobkred is used by Fortune 50 enterprises, top-ranked university, government agencies, and international aid agencies like World Bank. Gary has been invited to speak at conferences such as Asian Development Bank Skills Forum 2017, World Bank Annual Marketing 2018, and PASET Forum 2019, UNESCO AI and Education Forum 2019, NTUC's Shaping Careers and Channel New Asia Singapore Tonight on Entrepreneurship, and AI and the Future of Work. So to Gary Gan from Jobkred, you may start the presentation now. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I'm going to be a little bit different in terms of topic, right? Because I found Peter's sharing fascinating just now, but the main thing is that a lot of discussions is for more undergraduate students. So what we do in Jobkred is more for adult learners, especially those who are already employed and working in companies. How does a company help support a learning for their workers, as well as a learning recommendation system that supports the needs of currently working professionals? So it may not be fully in the context of most of the people in this call here, who are mostly working with undergraduates or people who are doing full-time programs in universities. But if your university is considering, offering bite-sized learning to working professionals or to partner with companies to provide corporate training or technical training to their workers, I think this could be relevant for you. So I'm just going to spend about 15 minutes just sharing a little bit about the technology behind Jobkred, how we do the recommendation engines, etc. So let me share my screen. Okay, so Jobkred, we are a workforce transformation platform. We focus on using skills intelligence. So just a bit of background on us. We've done different types of work for national projects with multiple countries around the world, including Indonesia as well. What we do is basically we are able to crawl labor market information like job boards, resume sites to kind of tell governments what are the skills trends and hiring trends in the country. Of course, we do work with Singapore government as well. And lately, for the last 3-4 years, we've been doing mostly work with employers, enterprises, to help them train their employees better. And I'll explain the details later on, right? So why is skills important, right? I think this, for your information, again, I recognize most of the people on the call here are working mostly with undergraduates, but for your information today, HR in companies are caring a lot about skills and competencies for their workforce. Number one priority for many HR in the world today, right? So why is that so? There's a lot of research, not just by myself, but from thought leaders like George Pershing, who is a HR kind of influencer. He has looked at this and understood that talents and skills, intelligence, and skills taxonomy will be the cornerstone of people strategy for companies going forwards, right? And the reasons are mostly because the companies' skills requirements of people are changing very fast, and companies are recognizing that they need to catch up to train their people in the right skills, or they are finding that they cannot find people with the right skills in the market because of demand. In this case, I'm sure all of you are training IT professionals, right? The demand is so strong. So how do you make sure that you, as a company, are able to supply the right talent to your workers, right? So I'll skip a lot of this information. I'll go through very quickly because there's not much time today. But basically, the role of skills and capabilities in business affects everything. So skills affects things like recruiting, performance, pay, promotion, organization design, everything. So skills is kind of the foundation for a lot of the work that is being done by HR in companies. So what is actually skills, right? Skills is kind of like the building blocks of a job. A job is comprised of a role, comprised of capabilities that help you do that role, and then skills are the ones that are the kind of enablers to allow people to do their job, basically. So the challenge for anything that is based on a skills-based approach of HR, you have this sort of challenge where firstly, there are kind of foundational things that need to be built. For example, a job architecture system or org structure system, and then that powers things like learning experience platforms, talent marketplace, and recruiting platforms. I'm going through a little bit fast because of time constraints, but feel free to ask questions later on about this particular kind of new evolution of HR, where skills and competencies are becoming like the foundation of a lot of different systems within the company. So where does Jobkred come into play, right? So Jobkred, we are a skills intelligence platform. In the center is kind of the features that we are able to provide for companies. So building job frameworks, getting skills data, doing skills assessments, creating internal talents, marketplaces and mobility, doing career pathing, collecting skills data for companies, and of course, the topic of today, doing learning recommendations. So I'll cover later on how we do learning recommendations. But of course, we're not just a standalone entity. There's data that we collect from all over the world, as well as we pass data back and forth to other systems as well. So this is kind of like the big picture in terms of data flow within the ecosystem that we are building. So we are not alone in kind of trying to solve this problem. You can look at this blog. I just found this blog recently. I found it very fascinating. So basically, it's NASA, is that how you pronounce it? NASA, NASA, right? Which is obviously a very well-known organization. It's the space agency of USA. They have started to look at the workforce skills and competencies of their workforce as well. So of course, these guys are obviously rocket scientists, literally, right? So they are the smart, probably very smart. So they have started to look at this themselves. So this is the architecture that they've created on their own, where an employee has so many different variables that come into play for an employee, right? And of course, how does that apply from the employee to the organizational or the occupation structure? So there's so much information that they're trying to build as a graph database in terms of the skills and competencies and other factors that affects an employee. So there's something very fascinating. You can have a look at it. But basically, many companies are starting to move towards a more skills-based organization as well. So let's look at our data science we do in Jobkred, right? How do we actually provide not just learning recommendations, but other type of recommendations, let's say career recommendations or job recommendations in our system. So I'll go into more detail later on, but basically to create a learning recommendation, it involves many APIs that we use, and I'll cover the APIs in details. Basically, it involves many different technology. So the first step that we do for companies is basically to define the skills requirement of the organization. In fact, we are helping companies build a learning curriculum on the fly for every single company. So imagine your school probably has your own curriculum of what a data scientist needs to learn, what a biology student needs to learn, right? In this case, we are helping companies to create their own learning curriculum based on skills requirements for the job roles. So that's the first step, to help them to do that. Second, then we help them to assess the current skills of the worker. For your case, could be known as recognition of prior learning, right? students who come in with previous work experience? How do you take account of that? Because you don't need them to learn everything. So that's where our system comes in to do skills assessments. Then, of course, there's a gap analysis, right? Where in this case, the company has set the curriculum that they want their data scientists to have skill ABC. They have assessed that the worker only has skills B and C. So obviously there's a skills gap for skill A. So that's the skills gap analysis that happens. Then that's where the training analysis happens as well, because the training content equally needs to be assessed in terms of what skills this training content teaches. We are not a training platform. We partner with schools like yourself to collect your training content to serve to the companies who are providing training. So we have to ingest your training content data and try to guess from our AI, what are the skills you're trying to teach. So we actually detect the job, the course title as well as the course content, and we try to infer what are the skills that are being taught and match that to the taxonomy of the company as well. So then we have the content. So finally, then we can make the recommendation. So we know the curriculum, we know the current skills of the worker, we know the gaps, we have the training content mapping done, and then finally we can then say that, hey, skill A, this is the training content I recommend to you. So behind all of that is a lot of basically multiple APIs that are being used at every single part of this process that I'll cover in the next few slides for how we do that. So as I mentioned, Jobkred, we crawl lots of labor market information around the world from countries all around the world, basically, millions of job postings. So this is some of the data that we're able to collect. I think this is like, 2021 to 2022, right? So you can see some of the data we have in terms of the job titles and the skills that are being collected. I think Peter mentioned just now, communication being the key skill. Yep, you're right. Communication is one of the top skills that companies are looking for every single job role. But of course, how data allows slice and dice, you can slice it down to see, like, say, IoT, right, as a skill name. Then you can see what sort of people they're hiring for that. So that's kind of the base of our technology. Behind the scenes, we do some data science as well to kind of make sense of the data that's collected. These are all the different data points that are collected from job postings. We do some predictive modeling around that. We do some, so I remember Peter also mentioned this, where let's say Coursera, etc., does this sort of recommendation based on what other people like as well. So that's collaborative filtering. We do some of this thing as well, where we, for example, we find that most people, most engineers have this sort of skill set. Maybe you want to get that same skill set as well, basically. Yeah. So we have other things like career pathing that does career path data. So historically, let's say most CTOs, chief technology officers, tend to have a career path from A, B, C to D, right? So these are the things we analyze. Even down to things like frequency, kind of like confidence level in terms of the skills clusters, right? So we noticed like the skills distribution for programmers that we find in the system tend to be very similar, and that's great. So that means there's a statistically accurate kind of significance in terms of the set of skills that a programmer should have versus something like a winemaker. So in our data, it's not correlated, basically. We can't make too many recommendations for skills of a winemaker because our data doesn't show that it's similar across most job postings, right? So there's some examples of how we do some data science in the system, even clustering of certain skills. So we can find some clusters of skills that ends up like, oh, these are actually management or marketing skills, right? So these are things that we are able to do with the data we have. So from there, all this data, we are able to create APIs, right? So there's two examples of two APIs, of a skills taxonomy API as well as a text-to-skill API. So that's how they interact with each other. But basically, each of these APIs is a lot of work to create, right? To then be used in the product. So then that's where all these different APIs are used in each part of this process to come up with the outcome to get the skills recommendation. So how does it look like? This is the last few slides to share with you. This is how our system looks like. So first of all, we have crawled and refined all the information about jobs and skills, etc., that we allow companies to actually access on their own. Instead of doing paper research to see what are the skills that a data scientist needs, right? We are able to gather all that data, put it into a system that recognizes the input. So you can put in not just a keyword search, you can put in your own job description. We will find a matching kind of data set for you. And then you can set the skills that you want your workers to have. So for example, as an accounts, operations, analyst, these are the skills that you have defined as what you want your workers to have. That's creating the curriculum. So this process is called building a competency framework or building a skills taxonomy for a company. Previously, it's only accessible to someone who hires an expert from like Mercer or McKinsey or Korn Ferry, Accenture to do. But now, we allow the self-service access using big data behind the scenes to kind of make sense of it, and some AI to do matching in terms of detecting what are the skills and the job roles necessary. So that reduces the time to do this from years to months. So that's a huge time saving for companies. From there, then we are able to help the worker understand their current skills, right? What are the skills and what are the skills gaps? So this is a training needs analysis basically for every single worker. So as a HR manager, operations, instantly we are able to tell them that for you need to learn performance management, and then you're missing the gap. You're missing the kind of proficiency requirement that the company sets for you. So color-coded, you can instantly see, I need to learn performance management, I need to learn succession planning, I need to learn organizational development, right? So it's very clear to the worker that this is the skills gaps they have. And of course, the last step is training recommendations. So now as a worker, the company has defined for me, firstly, what skills I need for my current role. Secondly, I've been analyzed in my current skills to see what my skills gaps are. And finally, the system is able to make recommendations based on crawling different training providers to then recommend the course that can close my skills gap. So this is very different from the type of adaptive learning that Peter was mentioning just now, which is excellent as well. I'm so impressed with all the things that I saw just now. But we are doing things a little bit differently. For us, we don't just help the learner, we help the HR of a company to define their curriculum, to define the skills that they need for their workers. Then we do a skills gap analysis. Then we do training recommendations. Yeah. So this is how we come to the end result here. It looks easy, but behind the scenes, actually, this is the whole behind the scenes, this is the whole kind of process that happens and the data science that happens underneath it. So today is just a very quick sharing of how we do this. Okay, so that's about it. Sorry, I didn't have too much time today, but I just wanted to share, how we at Jobkred help, training recommendations for workers within companies.
Thank you very much, Gary again, the CEO of Jobkred. But first, I want to confirm to our committee if there is any Q&A session for Gary again. For now, we jump to the Q&A session right away. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So Gary, I would like to confirm because the Q&A session for you and for the next speaker will be held after the third speaker. So will you be attend to the Q&A session? I think approximately it's around 20 or 30 minutes later.
Problem. Yeah,
okay,
I'm actually happy to do the session now because in case people have questions right now, but I can do later as well, no problem.
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind, then yeah, I think we will have the next Q&A session after the third speaker. So yeah, if you can present live during that, or you can, or maybe some of the participants can also have a chat if there is a question, and perhaps Gary again, if you don't mind, you can also typing in the chat box to some of the participants that asking you the question via the chat box. So yeah, that's about it from the Gary again. That is a very comprehensive explanation about the scene behind how the Jobkred is working. He already mentioned lots of API, how it works, and lots of diagram and the flow chart of how the AI works in the Jobkred, which is very interesting, as I would say. So yeah, so now we move on to the next session, which is our third speaker. Is Associate Professor Dr. Dina Fitria Murad from Binus Online Learning, Binus University. But before Ibu Dina present the presentation, please allow me to read the CV from Ibu Dina. So Ibu Dina is the Online Lecture Coordinator, or OLC, Information Systems Program, Binus Online Learning from Bina Nusantara University. She has also worked as a Research Coordinator, Information Systems Program in Binus Online Learning, Bina Nusantara University. And now she is the faculty member in the Information System Department in Binus University. She also worked as an internal auditor in Binus, or Bina Nusantara University. She also works as an assessor of this beban kerja dosen, or if we translate it to English, is that the assessor of this credit system for the lecturer in the Bina Nusantara University, and also she works as a reviewer in many national and international journal related to information systems. So to Ibu Dina, you may start the presentation now. Thank you, Ibu Dina.
Okay, thank you. Good morning for everybody. I am Dina from Bina Nusantara University. Let me share our research about personalized recommendation system for online learning, and our team, Mr. Muhammad Toha, as leader in the grant from ICE Institute. Grant from ICE Institute, but the Mr. Muhammad Toha from our university, and me, Mr. Bambang, Mr. Yaya, Mrs. Meta Amalia Dewi, Miss Rian Leandros from Bina Nusantara University, and Mr. Hendra Mayatopani from Pradita University. Okay, adapt from Monolescu and LeBron, Penn State University, USA start distance learning in Indonesia. We know and familiar with e-learning or distance learning in 2014. So this is still new. And maybe part of you and or maybe all of you know how about the recommendation system. In e-commerce, you may have been familiar with the recommendation system. For example, when you first join a marketplace, the list of product highlight for you are the best selling product. That based on Prof. Paulina said before, when you buy or click one product, so the list of product reference for you will change based on the same product that other people buy because they think you have something in common with them. Then it will make you satisfied and the rating you will be good. But it's different from education, right? Student will find it difficult to give rating for courses. But maybe it can be for the teacher. Maybe the teacher good looking and have a good smile and so on. So they are happy, right? While they have to keep learning in order to achieve in their learning achievement targets. And this is where the role of the system recommendation provide appropriate references for students. So why we have we interest to research about the recommendation system, because the recommendation system in e-learning aims to recommend a sequence of items to learner, that is to suggest the most efficient of or effective path through a large number of learning resources to achieve a particular competency. Then from others, we know learners do not have enough time to handle a large number of recommendations. In addition, adaptability and diversity of recommendation is desirable in recommending e-learning system, because the preferences and abilities of participants are constantly changing, and also because the function of some learning resources for active learner is constantly changing. I said about online learning, especially for students in online learning, because we know the recommendation system will work for learning management system. So learners have various interests. Even share a common interest, they have different level of expertise, and therefore they cannot be treated in a uniform manner. So it's very important to provide a personalized system that can automatically adapt to the interest and level of learner. So what is recommendation system? From some researcher that I got the meaning of recommendation system. Why is the recommendation system? Because the recommendation system provide a personalized system, then needed as a result of the preferences and abilities of students who keep changing. Then recommend item and pathway that are efficient to students to achieve competency. Meanwhile, learning management system provide the same learning structure for all students, even though the characteristics of each student are different. We know the student in online learning not just fresh graduated for senior high school, but most of them maybe even they have work in industry, maybe they have they as a professional, then and so on. Okay, what important of recommendation system for online learning? The very high popularity of online learning has resulted in the emergency of a great need for a number of educational resources and finding suitable learning references. This is a big challenge. Normally, in university environment that runs an online learning process, students are provided with a number of mandatory learning material and some additional references. So the student have many references for their study, but this is not make the student happy because too many sources to for them to learn their study. Lots of learning resources. Sometimes it makes students receive too much and excessive information that trigger researchers to take advantage of the use of recommendation system, with the aim that students get learning references according to their profile, behavior, style, or preference, which is then also known as personalization. I don't talk about adaptive or active learning, but recommendation system, I think will be done running well if we use in adaptive or active learning. So what is the recommendation system? Recommendation system is a method used to overcome the problem of information overload by filtering relevant content against irrelevant content. Recommendation system is a technique that allows users to identify items that are likely to be unique. One of the advantages of a context-aware recommendation system is that it more effective and more useful. Maybe you can even hear about context-aware, context-aware than sensitive-aware in a recommender system. A recommendation system is an information filtering system that deals with the problem of information overload by filtering out important information fragments from a large amount of dynamically generated information according to user preferences, interests, or observed behavior. So in our survey, we know exists in education many challenge and opportunity to explore for many researchers, something like for criteria in especially area in education about learning activity, learning resources, academic performance, e-learning, online learning, distance learning, and so on. Then for recommender system approach, something context-aware, context-sensitive, but many researchers using collaborative filtering, content-based, hybrid, and knowledge-based. Then recommender system development, most of them using web-based, but part of them using desktop-based and mobile-based and conceptual model. Then for empirical validation, most of them are using experiment, and for issue addresses by the recommender system, for option personalized recommendation that I discussed with you here, then prediction accuracy and efficiency, and improve educational practice. So I skip this. This is my student doctoral work about a survey. He used paper from 2017 and until 2020. Then he found Rex's approach, most of them using collaborative filtering. Collaborative filtering that the same I used in my research before. And Rex's technique, most of them using Kinnickber. Then for Rex's evaluation, most of them using mean absolute error. Then for Rexis platform, most of them using web that I said before. Okay, web because I think because they will include in a learning management system. Then for Rexis publication, something interesting, but about a recommendation system make the many researchers to explore more and more about opportunity recommendation system in online learning, and increase in 2021 and 2022. I think because impact from pandemic COVID-19, because migration face-to-face learning or traditional learning to online learning or distance learning. But outer countries in research about recommendation system, most of them from China. In Indonesia, just 13%. So this is a Rexis framework that I use in my last research. We use the framework, so the personalization, I have 4 data, the academic transcript for all result or transaction student in online learning. Then I use student profile because I use information contextual for additional feature in recommendation system to increase the prediction. Then I use academic data, curriculum development, and course content, because course content will be based on a roadmap that will be delivered to student if the prediction not good or low achieve. Okay, so the recommendation system, we use utility metric. All data we use utility metric as data set input. Then I use 3 methods to get the best method: user collaborative filtering, item collaborative filtering, and hybrid. Then part of them, several of them we use using information contextual, and part of them we use without information contextual. Then prediction is for forum discussion, then team assignment, then personal assignment, quiz, and final exam. Then based on context rule, based on student profile, and as rule based, we pop up notification to dashboard information in a learning management system. And this is sequence based context aware learning path. Sorry. Okay, learning path accommodation. That our model will be update update always continue if the input we give to the model. So this is just example a pop-up notification that we deliver in learning management system, but this is the real data. Okay, the model we train, then we testing to existing system. So the real system, student, the name Frita Rifatul Mahmudah, get 2 courses, business application development. In business application development, the prediction very good. So recommendation will give to her. First, we give set congratulation for her. Then we give suggest to more better in link material if she want to learn more. But others courses, the Frita business statistics and research methodology, the prediction very low. So we give suggest, but and we said the recommendations. The system predict your value very low. So you can difficult to achieve in these courses. So but you can get to more better if you learn more in the link. So the link as recommendation system give to her include link material, supporting material, but personalized to her because we give her based on the previous student using the learning path previous student as success in these courses. So conclusion for our talk, because this is still running in our research, there are still opportunity for the development of a specific recommendation system for learning engagement in online learning. The various characteristics of student in online learning require a recommendation system as one of the appropriate learning preferences and in accordance with online learning student. So adding contextual information maybe mean it's profile student as an additional feature to the recommendation system has proven to be more effective than without using contextual information. I think that enough. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much to
Dina,
Fitria, Murad. And yeah, we can give a very big round of appreciation and applause to both of our speakers, and the speakers number 2 and speakers number 3. And then now we will enter the Q&A session. Perhaps from the IT team, maybe we can present the PPT in the slide. Okay, perhaps I can read some of the question and answer that has been given by Gary Gan from the Jobkred. So the question that I see in the chat box is from the PPT is already here, so we go to the PPT first then. Okay, according to you, is there any recommendation for students of senior high school or undergraduate to assess their own skill digitally? And number 2, many experts say job landscape is disruptive and many new jobs created in the future. So how do you build skill set? As I see here, I think Gary again is already answered in the chat box, but maybe Gary, if you want to mention it again live, yeah.
Exactly. So these are great questions, right? So the first question, basically assessing skills is tricky. And the main reason is because every company, especially, looks at skills differently. So for example, if you're joining a IT company, the basic IT level is different from a construction company. You know, like the basic IT skill level for an IT company is much higher than the basic IT level for a construction company, for example, right? Thus, we find it quite challenging to create a standardized kind of assessment that we as Jobkred say that is the standard, right? So what we do is actually we help companies to create their own assessments based on their standards, and we make it easy to do and scalable. So it's not the answer you're looking for. I think it's tricky for undergraduates or seniors to understand the skill level, but I wish there was a better solution. Unfortunately, this is the current method that we are supporting. And second question about the job landscape. So you're right. Every company starts to realize this as well, that the whole jobs and skills landscape is changing very much. Even for the company, they are struggling to keep up. Right? They know that their developers or their IT engineers or even their counter staff. I worked with a bank and the F&B before, where their staff now need to learn how to use iPads rather than taking pen and paper, right? So these are things that they themselves are putting in as transformation, as a digital transformation, right? So they themselves are struggling to update the skills that their workers should have. So in that case, what we recommend with our system is to keep agile, is to use the data that we collect from other countries or other companies, and also make it easy for you to add in new skills. Like, let's say now my waitresses and waiters need to have iPad skills, right? That's okay. Then once you put it in, it straight away sends to everybody, accompanied with a training course, and you get the skill faster. So these are things that we try to encourage an agile mindset in the skills development.
Thank you, Gary. And then perhaps we can move on to the next question. To Gary again. For the CEO of the Jobkred, is there okay to apply job by the disabled workers? From Dia Rahmi. Thank you.
I'm not sure what disabled workers is.
Difable means that's handicapped. I mean, they're
Oh,
some kind of having physically they are not as excellent or as perfect as we are now.
so one of the reasons why I think moving to a skills-based approach to HR is that it creates democracy, right? You don't need to, like, for example, let's say if you can use our skills standards to say that, hey, software engineer is a skill A, B, C, D, E, that has no relation to whether you have, you know, some disability or not. You can do the skill, you have been assessed by the company, you can do the skill, you get the job. That's what moving towards a skills-based approach is. So I think we have seen that happen with many of our companies. I don't have an example for you because we didn't look at it in particular, but we know that by moving towards skills-based, a lot of companies are using that for transparency as well. So they know and can tell people that, hey, you get these skills, you can get this job role. And that doesn't at all look at gender, doesn't look at age, doesn't look at disabilities. So I hope that is the case for most companies working with us.
Thank you, Jaringan. I think it's a very important question as well. So yeah, maybe to the next question. Okay. To Gary again. How can we determine the value of skills relevant to the future of work marketplace? From Emir.
Got it. Thanks. So that's the thing. Like, first of all, how do you define the future of work? That's the problem, right? So again, I think it's hard. We have some answers, right? Because we have big data, we can tell you, okay, roughly, we can see certain trends, we can see certain changes. So for example, if you ask me, I can probably find like communication is going up or down, or Python for programmers is going up or down. So you can kind of guess what is the future of work in that sense, in terms of skills, right? But even then, I don't claim. You know, we cannot claim to be like a oracle, you know, a magic box that tells you the future. Even though I wouldn't be, you know, I'll be much richer than I am today if I can tell the future, right? So the point is that the issue is how can we help people to be agile enough to move along with the future of work when the future of work changes. For example, again, the waitress example, if the future of her work or his work is to use iPads instead of writing pen and paper, how can we help them to see that trend fast and adapt to it? So in that sense, trying to kind of like guess the future of work is quite difficult, but trying to be more agile to match the ever-changing future of work seems to be a more reasonable solution, I would say.
Thank you, Gary. And then I think the next question will be to Dina, which will be presented in the PPT. To Ibu Dina, how we manage our time to be a skillful student, and are there important to create a schedule of college with English subtitle and online learning? It's from Afifah Rahmadiyan.
Okay, can I answer in Indonesia because there is Indonesia? Because more better for explain in Indonesia because all of them in Indonesia.
Yes, it's okay.
Permit, Mr. Gary. Oke, maksud saya seperti ini. Di online learning, hampir 95% mahasiswa kami itu adalah pekerja. Ya, justru yang fresh graduated itu sangat jarang sekali. Dan dikarenakan mereka itu semua bekerja, maka tentu saja belajar online atau di PJJ itu merupakan salah satu alternatif yang terbaik bagi pekerja, termasuk di UT, gitu ya. Nah, kenapa seperti itu? Karena di pembelajaran online kita mengenal model pembelajaran sinkronus dan asinkronus. Jadi ada momennya mereka self-learning, belajar sendiri, ada waktunya mereka harus belajar dengan tutor atau tuton kalau di UT. Nah, nanti ada video conference. Jadi hal itu sangat membantu. Nah, kalau misalnya bertanya apakah saya bisa sambil bekerja, itu sangat mudah, sangat memungkinkan sekali karena banyak di pembelajaran online khususnya PJJ tersebut, studennya adalah student-student yang memang bekerja. Nah, kemudian yang kedua, bagaimana mempelajari mungkin ya jika materinya deliver in English. Khusus di Binus Online Learning kami memang materi utamanya deliver in English. Namun menurut saya itu kembali lagi ke student gitu ya. Mungkin kita semua tahu ya mempelajari itu semuanya dalam bahasa Inggris pun mudah sebenarnya untuk dipahami. Apalagi di Binus Online Learning kami ada yang namanya lecture note. Jadi kesulitan student yang dalam bahasa Inggris itu terbantu dengan catatan dosen. Karena materi itu komplit ya, ada materi utama deliver in English dalam bentuk PPT, kemudian ada lecture note dalam bentuk bahasa Indonesia, termasuk banyak sekali supporting material dan juga video yang direcord oleh dosennya dalam bahasa Indonesia, cenderung dalam bahasa Indonesia, seperti itu. Ya, nah tadi satu lagi pertanyaannya yang terakhir apa ya, Pak Fawzi?
The pertanyaan kedua adalah how important to include this subtitle the previous question, yeah. How is the importance of including subtitle during online learning in the videos? So that's what I remember about the question.
Oke. Sebagian dari video-video itu dalam bahasa Indonesia, tapi ada juga yang dalam bahasa Inggris. Namun, saya informasikan kalau di Binus Online Learning kami punya yang namanya MOC. Jadi MOC kami itu ada bekerja sama dengan beberapa perguruan tinggi lain, seperti MOC yang dibuat antara Binus dengan Pahang University. Jadi di-deliver dalam bahasa Indonesia untuk yang Binus, kemudian deliver dalam bahasa Melayu untuk yang Pahang University, tetapi subtitlenya in English. Nah, namun jika memang tadi ada semacam suggest ya, jika materi tersebut in English tapi dibuatkan subtitle dalam bahasa Indonesia untuk PPT, saya rasa bagaimana mengkondisikan subtitle. Tapi kalau video saya rasa sih sangat memungkinkan seperti itu.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Dina. And I think we have one last question in the chat box, and maybe we can present it in the PPT as well from the committee. Okay. I can read it from here. So, itu Ibu Dina, the question is that how to approach college student in practicum courses in embracing students who have a disability. This is from Bapak Firman.
Okay, in practicum courses that have practicum, the student we give some module, okay, some module. Then student will can self-learning using the module. But the otherwise, PJJ maybe Open University do the same. We have make collaboration and with industry and other university. So the practicum maybe not just in main campus, but maybe they can get with other industry that collaborate in Binus or PUBJ. Yeah, Mr. Fawzi. The
UPPDJI,
others, okay, PUBPDJI that we call cabang.
Yeah, regional office. Regional office, yeah.
Regional office in the other area. Something like Binus in Syahdan University, but they can going to Malang or Semarang, Bekasi, Bandung, and others.
Okay, thank you. And I think that question from Bapak Firman concludes the Q&A session. And I would like to give the two speakers, Mr. Jaringan and Ibu Dina, perhaps can give a short statements from the speaker two first, from Jaringan, CEO of Jobkred. Perhaps there is the short statement or conclusion that you might want to present.
Thanks for inviting me for this discussion, and really glad to learn from the other speakers as well that we are doing some similar things to you. So I'm doing the right thing. Thank you so much to get that information. But I'm glad for the questions as well. I think the future of work is really an important thing that all of us need to work on, being educators, and happy to have further discussion around future of work in other sessions as well. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Mr. Gary. And then from Ibu Dina.
Okay, I think use recommendation system in education has not been widely used. Especially for in Indonesia, okay. But many researchers are starting to dig further regarding RECSYS or recommendation system, and of course, the chances are high enough to be implemented, especially in online learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gary and Ibu Dina. So that concludes our forum in the Cyber Education Forum with the topic of personalized recommendation system for online learning. From the first speaker, from Peter from Arizona State University, we learned about adaptive and active learning system that also related a lot with this personalized recommendation system in online learning. And we also hear from Mr. Gary Gan, who speaks about the Jobkred, especially comprehensively explaining about many recommendation system in that area, such as from the API aspect and the many AI and flowchart diagrams that is related to how the user interface in the Jobkred could relate to this personalized recommendation system. And then Ibu Dina Fitria Murad from Binus also explains about her research in a personalized recommendation system. So I think the three speakers already comprehensively describes from many aspects in this topic. So now we will give the token of appreciation from the committee to both of our speakers. I think first we will give it to the Gary Gan from Jobkred. Perhaps the IT team can present it via PPT, the certificate.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear my voice, Mas Fawzi?
Yeah. Yes, it's clear.
Okay. Hai Gary, Bu Dina. Bu Dina, kita ketemu lagi. Gary dan Bu Dina, thanks for sharing today. We believe your sharing is very meaningful and useful for us. Same with Peter. Here I represent the committee today awarding a certificate for your contribution. Sorry, we can only give a certificate for what you have shared with us today. Hope you like this. Okay, the certificate for Gary. Please give virtual applause for him. And then this certificate for Ibu Dina. Give him another virtual applause. Thank you and see you later.
Thank you very much to the honorable speakers and also to all the participants for lively attending this forum and actively discussing this very productive and informative class or forum. And then, yeah, we will hope to see you again in the next opportunity. Stay healthy as always, and goodbye. I'm sorry for the any inconvenience also from the committee if there is something not that good happen. So bye-bye. Thank you very much and see you for the next opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Gary.
Have a nice day, everyone. Mr. Gary and Ibu Dina. Bye.
Bye.
We would like to announce as well that the link for the feedback will be presented in this screen. So yeah, don't forget to fill in the feedback, and also if some of you want to download the material, can also be accessed by the link presented in the slide. Thank you very much and have a good day, everyone.